ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My friends, as we near the end of September, our republic finds itself shaken by both sorrow and spectacle. Ours is not the first generation to feel such weight. Americans have faced depression, war, and division before, and each time the nation endured. The measure of a republic is not whether storms arise, but whether its people hold fast when they do. Tonight, as we speak together, I ask only that we look upon the events of these past weeks with steady eyes. We must neither exaggerate nor ignore them, but take them as they are, serious, sobering, and calling for unity. Earlier this month, a citizen of our republic was slain while speaking before an audience. However one judged his politics, his death is a tragedy. It is the kind of act that strikes not only at one man, but at the right of us all to live and to speak in peace. Such violence wounds the whole nation. In moments like this, the duty of a free people is clear: to mourn with honesty and to hold fast to the principle that disputes are settled by reason, not by bullets. Yet we see again the rush of partisanship. Too often moments of mourning are swept into the exercises of political rivalry. There was a time not so long ago when America paused before judgment, when grief was given space to breathe before it was turned into a slogan. Today, that pause is gone. The funeral had not even been planned before the speeches and recriminations began. The hasty verdicts shouted from podiums and pulpits do not bring clarity. They only deepen division. Coupled with this is the apparent ineptitude and rank unprofessionalism of a low-rent podcaster who now finds himself in the director's chair, a man whose appetite for the truth vanished the moment he was sworn into office. Hoover he is not. If we are to remain a republic of laws, we must resist this haste. We must demand facts, not theater, justice, not spectacle. That is the responsibility of a free people, and it is ours in this moment. Meanwhile, the markets climb. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ, all have touched new records. Commentators speak of strength, of recovery, of a nation made prosperous again. But I know, and you know, that most American families see none of that prosperity. They measure the week not in points gained, but in rent due, in groceries bought, in medicine foregone. A nation is not fed by numbers on a screen, but by bread in the cupboard, fuel in the tank, and wages in hand. We must be clear-eyed. When Wall Street glitters while Main Street struggles, we do not see health, we see imbalance. And imbalance, left unchecked, breeds unrest. It is not the task of government to cheer the markets and leave the people to fend for themselves. It is the task of government to ensure that prosperity is not a show window display, but something present in every household. In the years of the Great Depression, I learned this lesson well. Statistics then, too, could be made to look brighter than the lives they described. But the measure of recovery was never found in graphs or bulletins. It was found in whether a man could keep his job, whether a mother could fill the supper table, whether a child could grow without hunger. That remains true today. This week also brought the indictment of a former director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The law must take its course, but the course of the law is not what troubles us most. What troubles us is how easily the work of justice is bent into partisan shape. When institutions are turned into weapons of faction, they do more than falter. They corrode the people's faith. And once that faith is lost, the republic itself is placed in peril. Perhaps this is not a consequence at all, but the very intention of this administration, to weaken trust until nothing remains but its own grasp on power. We are led for the moment by the most petty president in our history, a man so small that he carries his grudges into the great chamber of the United Nations. The nations of the world gathered to hear America speak of war and peace, famine and climate, trade and security. Instead, they were treated to the grievances of a man aggrieved by a stalled escalator. Yes, the machinery that carries shoppers between floors became his subject on the world stage. Others came to debate the fate of nations. Our president came to complain of mall architecture. This was not an exception, but part of a long and familiar pattern. Disputes about crowd sizes, quarrels with weather maps, endless feuds with comedians and late-night hosts, and, of course, the incessant insecurity about his tiny, tiny hands. He drags the grievances of a gossip column into the councils of state, and in so doing makes the republic itself look small. Such behavior does not elevate a leader. It reduces a presidency to farce, and it risks reducing America itself in the eyes of those who once looked to her for seriousness and steadiness. In Gaza, tragedy and turbulence deepen. The bombs fall without pause, striking not only militants but families and the barest remnants of civilian life. I would have included hospitals and schools in this critique, but they have long since been destroyed. The Arab world has gathered in condemnation, and even our closest allies now move to recognize Palestinian statehood. Yet in this hour, America does not merely fail to lead. It lends its hand to the work. Our government has chosen collaboration in acts that are unspeakable and inhumane. At the United Nations, most nations pledged new resolve on climate change. Our own government chose instead to scoff and to sneer. But the fires and floods do not pause for politics. Storms will not wait for speeches, nor droughts for denials. The world is moving forward. America must decide whether she will march with our allies or stumble alone in defiance. The duty of leadership is not to mock the assembly of nations, but to guide it. America once set the course for peace in a divided world. She can do so again, but only if her leaders remember that strength is found not in jeers or in isolation, but in the steady work of cooperation. And so this week gives us all at once a violent death in our own land, political exploitation of grief, new burdens placed upon working families, a presidency reduced to personal grudges, and a foreign policy that confuses collaboration with cruelty. These forces are not new. They are the same winds that have tested this republic for generations. The question is not whether such forces exist, but whether we will let them master us. Will we allow sorrow to be sharpened into a weapon? Will we accept prosperity as real when it lives only on a trading floor? Will we welcome the worker, the dreamer, the builder, or will we close the door and call ourselves safe? The answer cannot be left to markets or to speeches or to men obsessed with their own grievances. The answer lies in us, in our ability to demand truth over theater, fairness over fear, and unity over exploitation. This republic has endured because its people have endured, clear-eyed, patient, and unwilling to surrender their conscience. That remains our duty tonight. My friends, the measure of a republic is not in the noise of its leaders, but in the steadiness of its people. We have faced storms before: depressions, wars, assassinations, betrayals, and each time the American spirit has carried us through. That same spirit must guide us now. Let us resolve that grief will not be turned into a weapon, that prosperity will be judged not by stock tickers, but by supper tables, and that America's place in the world will be measured not by cruelty, but by decency. Good night, my fellow Americans. May courage and conscience guide us in the week ahead, and may the flame of our republic burn steady until we meet again.